live from the House of LeMay Makeup and Dressing Room.
Here comes Amber, stop what you're doing. Here comes Amber, she's just doing what she can. Here comes Amber, cue the spotlight. Here comes Amber with 2 drinks in her hand. The matriarch of fashion, from sequins to her glasses, you can't look away. Ask her, does she do it? There's really nothing to it. She's got that feminine gaze. If you have a party, or if you're feeling naughty, call up the House of LeMay. Here comes your favorite gal. Here comes your queen. Here comes the talk of the town. It's Amber Live tonight. The music starts to play and it's time for cabareting on Amber Live tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn off all cell phones and get ready for your host, Amber LeMay.
Hello there, Amber LeMay here. It's a Sunday night, so you know I'm here. But you know what? I'm not really here. This is a pre-recorded show. You know, we did over 60 shows live every week, and so Russell and I decided we're going to take a couple of weeks off. But we've got a great show lined up for you. Russell, Russell's going to get mad at me. I didn't say like, share, subscribe. I tell you, I need a vacation. All right, take care of that. And then, Russell, come on in.
Wow, you can teach an old drag queen new tricks.
Oh, my gosh, I need a vacation. That's why I'm not here this week.
I know. Do you want to tell everyone where you're going?
No, I want to surprise someone.
Oh.
Yes. So,
Everybody out there in Amberland better keep their eyes wide open. If you spot her, send us a note right away.
Yes.
We do need to send the men in the white coats out.
And I do have your number on speed dial for bail money, Russell. All that bustier money.
If only I had some.
All right, Russell.
Wait, we'll have to start a new category of super bail bustiers.
Yes. Oh, I'm just so excited that, I love doing this show, and I'm glad we're doing some pre-recorded shows. But, I think we both could use some time off.
Yes. Between having the 4th of July off and now we're doing 2 weeks of shows. Now there is new material here, so
Yes.
you still are. He used to say it's new to you.
Yeah, nude. Who's nude?
That might be where you are, Amber, but I don't want to know.
All right. So if people are just tuning in, tell them the best way to watch, Russell.
Well, the best way to watch is on our YouTube channel, and we recommend that because YouTube is in full HD. And you can see every corner and crook and cranny of Amber in as large as you want to blow it up. Now, it's not quite 4K, but it is full HD. So someday when StreamYard adds 4K and we all get 4K cameras, then we'll really be able to zoom in on her. But so we do recommend YouTube. And while you're there, it's a huge help to us if you would subscribe to the channel, and you can like this video, and I'll share it with your friends. Tell them you're watching. Have a watch party. There's lots of things you can do while you're at YouTube, and there's also a little bell there if you want to know when we go live. And normally, Amber, when do we go live?
Well, we've been going live on Wednesday nights for Amber Chat, but we're cutting that out for a couple of weeks too, because I'm going to be on the road. And but yeah, Wednesday nights we do Amber Chat, and then on Sunday nights we do the show. So you want to know what's coming up, so make sure you subscribe.
Yes, and in addition to subscribing, the other way you can help us is through my favorite activity, and that's the Bustiers. And the Bustiers are the people who help keep this show going, and we really appreciate all of them. Our super Bustiers, like Craig Hilliard, Rial Masson, Janet Feeney, John Martin, and Larry Lamori, have all been very kind to us. And then everybody else has helped out as well. And you can become a Bustier using the Venmo there at RJD Pro. You can send us any amount of support. Anything you can afford is a huge help because it does cost to keep this thing going. And we have 3 levels. If you give $25 or more, you get a sticker. If you give $100 or more, we'll send you the sticker and the magnet. And for $200 or more, you'll get a sticker, magnet, and a beautiful Amber Live mug. So you can have coffee with Amber every morning. And again, use the Venmo at RJD Pro. It's a huge help. We really appreciate it. Thank you all.
You know, I love looking at that list because not only does it include people who have supported the LeMays for over 25 years, but also there's people who have just been guests on our show, and they said, hey, that was a fun experience. I want to see it keep going. So they sent us some money. And then there's people from all over the country who have subscribed and become bustiers as well. We've got see people there from Florida, from Massachusetts, New York, Vermont, Tennessee. It's just great seeing those places on our map. So thank you very much.
Yes, I agree. Thank you all. So, and now it's time to move on to our guests for the evening, Amber.
Yes.
Are you excited for this?
oh, I had so much fun. Oh, so much fun. So tell them who the first one is, Russell.
Yes, we had a great time the other day recording this first interview, and I have to say, Amber was having a hard time standing still, and I was watching it and laughing so hard. When we finished the interview, my cheeks hurt. And that person who created that, these cheeks. The person who created that much laughter is the amazing Dixie Longate. And Dixie is just a beautiful soul with a sense of humor that exceeds anyone I think I've ever met. She is friggin' funny. And we have an extended interview tonight with her, so you're going to love that.
This is her third time appearing on our show.
I think
she
so,
was an early guest, and then in the winter, and then also and now. So it's just great. And I tell you, mostly all I said was, "Hi, Dixie," and away she went for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it is hard to stop her.
That's great.
And then after Dixie, we are going to have one from the vaults. We have a classic Amber. We have Elliot Robinson will rerun his episode or his interview, and he is from the podcast Creative Tension, and it's all about the Jim Crow era. And a lot of information there. It was an amazing interview. If you didn't see it, or even if you did see it and you want to see it again, we're going to rerun it tonight, and you'll get a chance to watch it because it just was fantastic.
It's amazing, just the way he talked. And he was another one who I just almost said hello, and he filled up the time. It was just fascinating. And so I'm happy we're bringing that back and sharing that again.
So those are our guests for tonight. So enjoy them. Have a great show.
Yes, enjoy the first interview with Dixie Longate. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Take it away, Amber. One of the things I've really enjoyed doing the past 67 weeks is meeting some great people in the entertainment world. And one of my favorite interviews that we've had has been with Dixie Longate. And she decided to come back and talk to us again. I'm so happy. Dixie, come on in my basement.
Hi, darling. How's everything?
Oh, everything's great. Good to see you again.
You're so fancy because you got a basement. Because here in Alabama, you don't even got to have a basement because if you dig down, you're just going to hit like a swamp. So you can't everything's like built up because otherwise everything would flood. And then you'd have that stinky thing where you're like, oh, my God, what's floating down there that smells so bad? Is that a body? You know, like that. So you don't even have that. Yeah. So you're super fancy. I'm just impressed.
Yeah, I love my basement. It's nice and cooler in the summer as well.
That is nice because it is hotter than the blue blazes here. I can't even stand it. It is so hot. You know when your panties like stick to you and you're like, oh my Lord, and you're not even wearing panties? It's like it's been those days. And then it was so funny. I was doing it's been like torrential downpour this whole week and bad storms, lightning and thunders and everything. And so this week I was chatting with somebody online, and then it lost power for 7 hours. And I would tell you what, oh my Lord, the funniest thing is somebody took a picture and sent it to me of me because I froze on their screen, but I froze like this. Like my mouth was so big, and they're like, there's so much I could put in that mouth. I'm like, oh, there's so much that already has been put in that mouth. Don't even do that. But yeah, it froze, and it's 7 hours. And you know what? The sad thing about 7 hours is every time you go in your freezer to get ice cubes to make more drinks, oh my lord, everything, it's all melted. So you just get a bigger and bigger ice cube. You know, a big ice cube will really sully a drink, and then it's not even as good because all of a sudden all you're tasting is water. It's just wrong. It's wrong. But everything's back to normal. We got the power on as much as we have, you know, and so it's good. It's good. It's good. But it's hurricane season now. So you got to get ready for the hurricane preparedness. And then that means you got to get your kit. You got to get like toilet paper, which you can get again, which is nice. And then vodka, and then Band-Aids, and then vodka, and then peanut butter for the dog. Because, you know, when you're like, there's a bad storm and the dog starts like, rah, 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 rah. You got to get a big old jar of Skippy Chunky because that keeps him occupied. So he's not as scared when he's licking on something. And if you happen to drop that jar of Skippy Chunky somewhere near your crotch, it's whatever. It doesn't have nothing to do with you. That dog just goes to town. You don't want to push him away because he's a biter. You know how it is. So you got to be careful, you know. So I'm getting my hurricane preparedness kit all ready for that and everything. Got to get my flashlights and everything with the batteries. And like I have plenty of batteries, but they're in the bedroom near that thing by the drawer. So I can't use the, you know, and they take different ones to put in the flashlight because flashlight don't do the vibrating thing that the other things that I have do. So you got to like, you know, there's nothing worse than middle of the night, you're feeling fancy and then you turn over and you grab a flashlight instead of the thing that you turn the bottom on and you go, like that, you know, because then you're just sitting there like bored. Because nothing, and then you're lit up, and that's even worse. Because like if there's somebody looking through the window, you know, like there I was like Jesus is watching. I'm like I know, and he keeps coming over, or whatever the neighbor's name is. He just keeps coming over and like looking in the window, and you're like, hey, who's that? And I'm like, Jesus, you know.
So I've heard you talk about your neighbors before. Can you tell me more about them?
Oh my lord! Out there is a bug flying around my face. So I've got a couple of. I've been meeting so many neighbors, okay? Because when the pandemic started, everybody started coming out and being like, "Oh, let's just say hi to people." Okay, so you got to talk to people when they come. You're like, "Oh, hi," yeah. And then you got to remember their name and everything. So I know there's Sheila Dunmuddy. She lives across the gully from me. She is she's 92. She's in a wheelchair, but she's got an estranged relationship with her daughter. But she's got 2 little grandbabies that come and play around. So they was in the bouncy house, and then the bouncy house kind of deflated. And you know when you see a bouncy house deflated in somebody's backyard, it's one or two things. Either the party's over or their kids trapped underneath it. And either way, it's just a weird day. And so, but she's 92, so she's in a wheelchair, so she can't have to check on the grandbabies on account of the fact that her yard slopes right into the gully. And the grandbabies don't have the upper body strength to be able to hoist her out if she falls in. And so they would have to come up to me to do it. And I'm like, when something goes real wrong and you're like, oh, no, I can't help, I'm busy or whatever. And so, yeah, so then the kids are there. So I wave at Sheila, and then every once in a while, like, Sheila, the grandbabies, but she can't hear because, well, one of the selling points to phase 3 in the trailer park is that phase 3 has double pane windows, so it blocks the sound out so you can't hear the cockfighting from phase 1. So when I try to yell over to her, she can't even hear me. So I'm like, you might have grandbabies stuck. I don't know. It's up to you. Go out, find them. All right. Because you can only do so much as a neighbor. And then I have neighbors on the other side. So Mabel Gunwood, she's sweet. She's a hoarder. But the nice thing is when you go to her front yard to give her food, you can always just take something from the front yard because she's not even going to remember she has it out there. And I got this great bingo caller thing the other day from her front yard. I went to take her lasagna, which is always a nice thing to do. You go in there and you're like, got lasagna. But the way it's community service, we call it, but it's also a great math thing for my little one because I say to my son, we're going to take lasagna over to Mabel Gunwood. We go over there, and then when we bring them on the door and she opens up the door, you play, how many cats can you find in the hoarder lady's house? So he's like, 1, 2, 3. But it's very important. You don't want to put the lasagna near where she has the doorknob on that side because she can open it and just look at it and take it in. You got to put it on the side where the hinges are, so she's got to open the door all the way to get to it. And then when it's open, you can count it. But you have to be careful because she also collects cat figurines, so you can't count anything that either looks like a solid cat or a dead one. It has to be moving when you count it. All right, so we're up to 8 right now. I'm going for 10 because I said with my little one to Dwayne, I said, when you get to 10 that you can count, I'm taking you out for ice cream.
That's a lot of cats. That's a lot of cats.
It is a lot of cats. Well, hoarders tend to have them because they come out there and they're just looking for things that have died so they can feast on them. Yeah, they are. Cats are so clever. And boy, can they lick their own crotch. Did you see that movie, Cats? Oh, my stars and garters. Dame Judi Dench laid down in a hamper, lifted her leg up, and licked her own crotch in that movie. I was blown away by that talent. Sheer talent.
I missed that.
How good. Honey, go back and see it. If you have, 45 days and you have a real death wish, go watch Cats again. And there's a moment when Dame Judi Dench goes in and she is talking, she's watching Ian McKellen sing. You know how he does. He's like, I'm an old cat or whatever. And then she's like, and then she lays her ass down in a hamper, lifts her leg up, and starts going to town. They cut away right before the action starts, but you know what she's doing because that leg goes up. She starts shimmying just so. You know she's going. Well, and who wouldn't do that to Ian McKellen? He's so talented. But I never thought I'd see Dame Judi Dench in a hamper. So the things you learn. I know, it's good.
So your little one, Dwayne, is that what you said?
I got 3 of them. I got Dwayne, Winona, and Absorbine Jr. He's heaven's little angel, that one. He's so sweet. He has been having the most fun because during the pandemic, we have to play games with him. And I did this game called hide and seek. And so what you do is you say, count to 1,000, which is great because it uses pretty much all the numbers. And he hides in the corner. And then it goes 1, 2, the other numbers. And then I leave and I go out and get stuff. I go to the Piggly Wiggly, I do a little shopping. I go to the bank, I get some stuff done. I go to the dry cleaners, and it's just real nice. Like, not that I have anything at the dry cleaners, because I'm like, I don't want you to think I'm so fancy. I got a basement like some people do. But I went to the dry cleaners years ago because on account of the fact that I was picking up a dress for a friend of mine. And I was like, no, Monica, they can't get the stain out. But the guy that worked there was so neighborly, and he took me back in the back to show me his ancient Chinese secret. And so that was just to say hi. He's such an angel, that one. And then I go to my friend Georgia Jean. She owns a honky tonk. So I go to the honky tonk and we have a good time. We talk and drink and she gets out shots, we're all there. And then the Reverend comes in because that's where he gets his wine for communion because he buys it in bulk from her and gets savings on it, And then, so we do that. We all do shots. We do communion wine shots. We taste it for him, for Jesus and everything. And then I go home and then my little one's like 389, 390. Then I leave and I go out and I go back to the bar. And by this time, like, the FedEx man has come with a part to fix the mechanical bowl that was broken. So we get on it. We ride that. We have a good time for the rest of the day. Then a couple of other gals come for the PTA. I'm not allowed to go to the PTA anymore on account of the fact that one time I was in charge of refreshments and I bought, you're not allowed to have alcohol on school grounds, and whatever. And so I don't do this. So anyway, they come out there and we go to the bar. We all talk about the importance of education, whatever. And so we just sit there talking, having a good time. And then I finish up. I say bye to everybody. I say bye to my best friend Georgine. Then I go home and my little one's like 998, 999. I run into the laundry room and he goes 1,000. I'm like, I'm in the hamper. Oh, you're gonna find me. Well, if you don't tell him, my trailer isn't big, but it's long. And so he's going to start at the other end and then try to find me. And he's going to lose interest in the middle. So by the time it gets to me, it's going to be like another 4 hours later that I can get stuff done. So if I check, I'm in the hamper. If he comes down and finds me at the beginning of his search, then it's fine. And you should see his little face light up. He's so sweet. He's like, I found you, Mom. I'm like, okay, get Mama cigarettes. And so it's so sweet. I enjoy him. He's just an angel sent from baby Jesus above.
So what did you homeschool your kids during the pandemic?
Well, I guess you can call it that. Like, I put up where I went into the what do they call that, where you could hold all the liquor, the baby's room. So I go in the baby's room and put up the little computers, and I'm like, watch these or whatever, and if you hear Mama banging on the door in her bedroom, don't come. I'm putting up shelves, whatever. Kids are so gullible. And so, so I basically showed them different things they can do. And then I had to learn them. And I didn't get past 4th grade. And my son, my middle one, Dwayne, is in 5th. So they're like, teach them fractions. So I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. So I figured out how to do that with wine, like a quarter glass of wine, or a half glass wine, a 3/4, and then full glass. We call it an Episcopalian pour, So we get, and that's how you teach the kids their fractions. So I was doing my best to help them along, and they was at home doing their, learning, because I'm used to the kids going away in September, not coming back to June. So to have them in the house this long really is inconvenient for my sex life. But I did what I could because I'm a good mother and I care.
Yes, yes. So anything else going on in your trailer park there?
Well, things are starting to open up. People are starting to go out and do fun stuff and have a good time again. People, people are starting to get vaccinated. We're opening up some things to go and do, like the park, which is always outside. So it's always been open, but people didn't know that because people are stupid and they're cultured, and so they don't do things. So, but I go out to the park and I'll run, from the law or whatever. There's just all kinds of fun stuff to do. And now, especially this summer, like when the rains come, we have these pool parties because the gully floods and people just throw inner tubes in it. And you're like, watch out for the snakes, but it's fine. So we go in there and we have a good time. And oh my God, all my neighbors, they're pulling out all their activities, like cornhole, which is something different here than it is for some people, but I'm not going to point out the differences. But it's really fun. You throw a beanbag into a hole, and grown men play this, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds masculine." But no, it's a really good time. We're starting to just do things again. Church is open, so I'm able to go to church and get on my knees and be like, Jesus, winter shots, because I love it. It's my favorite part of church when they open up the front and they're like, shots for Jesus, you go running up there, and they give you the wine in a little tumbler, and you're like, he's dead. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm thirsty. So I bring my big tumbler up, and I have Jesus was 6'2". He bled a hell of a lot more than this. I'm like, fill this, come on, and we just drink it down. And the Reverend is just like, oh, you're so sick. I'm like, more, please. Remember that musical Oliver? And he's like, can I have some more? I feel like that when I go to church. I'm like, Mama's thirsty, and there's going to be a 2-hour wait at the Cracker Barrel after the service. So you got to start getting in there and filling it out now. So that's what you need to do. So it's good. Things are starting to get opened up a little bit. I'm seeing friends again, which is nice. And then some friends I'm not seeing again, which is nice. So it's about finding that delicate balance. I like it. How about you? Are you going out and doing fun stuff again?
Yes. Last Lucy Bell and I have been going out, and we're just having a lot of fun. People happy to see us, which is a switch.
Isn't that nice? And they say the nice things. You look alive. Like that's good. It is good. It is good. Yeah. And then I know the homosexual pride is this month, which is great. So now, are they celebrating homosexual pride up by you? Because I know some of them are still shut down. Some of them are not happening this year still.
Yeah, well, you're proud. How can people stop that? So I noticed that purple glass. Tell me about your tumbler there.
Honey, my Tupperware. See, Tupperware is the best crap on the planet. I've been a Tupperware lady since I got out of prison, and my parole officer's like, you need a job to get your kids back. Now I realize what a horrible idea that was. But in the meantime, yeah, I sell the fantastic plastic crap, and I've been selling it for a while. And then, of course, as you know, I have a show called Dixie's Tupperware Party, which is all centered around Tupperware, because I started selling Tupperware in people's living rooms. And then a friend of mine said, hey, you're good at this. You should do this on stage. And I didn't hear him at first because I was on my knees and my mouth was full. So I was like, what? And then I got up, and he's like, oh, you should do this on stage. I'm like, what? No, the last time I was on stage, it was bruising from all the people throwing quarters, because I live in a area of town and they don't have dollar bills. And so I was like, okay. So I did. We took it to New York, and it ended up turning it into a show that ran off Broadway called Dixie's Tupperware Party. I know, so it's true, stupid thing. And then, you know what? I actually got a Drama Desk nomination for that show. Shut up. The Drama Desk awards are just like the Tony Awards, but they cover not just Broadway, but off Broadway and regional, like off Broadway. And so my show, I got a Drama Desk nomination with a category called Outstanding Solo Performance. Do you know who beat me? True story. Lawrence Fishburne. Rigged. It was rigged. But yeah, so that was back in 2007. I did that, and then the show started going on tour in 2008. And then I was strong all the way up to the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened and everything shut down. And so they're like, go back to your kids. I'm like, do I have any? Yeah, like. They're so crafty too, because they're like, how many of you were mine? And they're like, I think all of them. And you're like, no, I don't remember that many. Because now, kids, they're like, put themselves up on top of their shoulders, put a trench coat on and walk in the door and be like, I'm just here to see the dirty movie. And you're like, no, you're out, but I have the 3 that I kept. And so they're so sweet, they do what they can. But, so now everything is starting to open back up a little bit. And some of the shows are starting to come back. And, a lot of the Broadway stuff is coming back this fall.
Yes.
and the tours. Now, smaller shows like mine are not going to be coming back right away just because the art centers don't have the same resources that they had before the pandemic. So it's going to be a little bit of a, like, when you turn a light on and it's a fluorescent light and it's in the bathroom of like a truck stop and you're like, it's going to be kind of like that, how things are going to open up a little bit at a time. And then you might see a dead body and a lot of vomit in the corner, but it's going to come up at a time. And so I'm looking really forward to that. That's going to be a good thing. So, but in the meantime, like, I'm going to be, I'm doing some shows. By the time it's aired, I'm working on a new show called Shit Kicker. Shut up. And then, so I've done 2 tests of that. I've done a test of that in Fort Worth, Texas. Everybody was so neighborhood. Look at, shut up, there I am. I know. And then I did a test in Provincetown, Massachusetts. And so that's been fun. So I'm going to work on that and like blow that out a little more and take that around to some places. But Dixie's Tupperware Party, my first show is going to go back. It's going to be in Saugatuck, Michigan, at the end of July, and then I'm going to be we're going to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for 6 whole weeks of the CLO Cabaret. We're going to be there from September 7th to October. I think it's 17th or something. I can't even wait. It's so nice. Everybody in Pittsburgh is so nice. They're like, come behind the dumpster. Let me show you something.
So you've survived the pandemic. What was your favorite thing about the pandemic after all?
The pandemic, what was really interesting about it is it really made me, it made me be grateful for what I had, because that's the thing. What I think a lot of people sort of don't realize, and a lot of people are like, oh, let's go back to normal. I'm like, well, no, because normal shouldn't happen anymore, because like we had this whole big life-changing event. And I think the thing that people, a lot of people went through a lot of angst. A lot of people obviously went through a lot of suffering. And I think what people don't give themselves enough credit for is the entire rug was ripped out from under the globe all at the same time. And we were forced to adapt. Like, we had no choice. We had to just adapt on a dime and figure out what the future was going to hold for us. And I really think, there's been some bad stuff, obviously, that's happened. There's been some craziness that's going on, but I think there is it showed a lot of humanity that came, stepped up, helped their neighbors, figured out ways to like get food to people, get help to people, help people that were shut in, that weren't around people. And I think that we can't really undervalue how big and important that was, that collectively we all found a piece of our humanity that we were forced to look for, that we maybe sort of didn't think about before, because there are people that needed our help. And I think that was, that's a really great thing that I think came out of this. And my hope is that continues. And I've seen so many great examples of people that have done fundraising, and people that have done benefits, and people that have like become bigger members of the community and done more for their neighbors. And I think that's really an inspiring thing. And I think that's the thing that whole pandemic will leave me with, is like there are traces of good in everybody, and there are things that you can find that you didn't even know you were capable of yourself. And I think that's what really kind of inspires me and keeps me going.
Well, Dixie, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. One of the best things from the pandemic is me having the opportunity to talk to people like you, and it's just so nice. I love your stories. Good luck to you on the road, wherever it takes you. And we'll talk again.
Fast with you in real life. It's been too stinking long since I've seen you in real life. I just adore you. You're like a popsicle. I want to put something on your butt and put it in your mouth and suck it till you're gone, because you're just so good at stand-up. I hope I get to see you in the very, very near future. Come up out of the basement. We'll get ourselves a cocktail.
All right. You got a deal there. Thank you so much, Dixie.
Thank you, sweet angel.
Safe travels.
Thank
you. Yeah. Whoa. Wasn't that great? Thank you again very much, Dixie. I hope to see her soon. I just love that. So good. So good. All right. So we still got lots more coming up. So, Russell, come on in.
Hey, Amber, great show so far.
I think so. I've had a great time.
I'm laughing again watching Dixie. Coming up in the show, we still have a lot of our regulars, and we've got a great interview again with Elliott Robinson, all about the Jim Crow era. And that's a Amber classic, one from the vaults.
Yeah, we've been on long enough. We have the vault.
We do. And the vaults these days are hard drives filled with old shows.
But you know what? Also, people who have missed past shows, they can go on YouTube, and you have categorized all of our shows and done a lot of segments too. I think there's like 400 different videos on our channel that people can browse through at their convenience. So please do that.
Yeah, and that's another reason to watch us on YouTube and to subscribe there, because all of that material is up there and you can watch it anytime. There's amazing interviews from a lot of people. So
yes,
we're still amazed we got them on the show.
Yeah, and plus make sure you like the videos and make a comment too. We want to know what you think about us too. Yeah,
we do.
feedback,
We
whatever.
do. So I do want to remind people about the Bustiers. If you haven't sent us your support lately or ever, we would love to hear from you. You can use the Venmo there at RJD Pro. So thank you so much for that to all our Bustiers. And now we have a word from one of our many sponsors.
What's up, bud? This is Rusty Peen here. Dude, have you checked out the Amber Live merch shop lately? Dude, I'm here to tell you, you should. Because you can see me, Rusty Peen, on the side of a mug. You can get Rusty Peen thinking and drinking so that you can do some of your best thinking when you've been drinking. Dude, you know what this calls for? Shot a fireball. Shot a fireball. Dude, morning coffee, evening coffee, anything tastes fire is better for fireball. Straight little chaser, bud. Anyhow, any time of day, it's always good. Dude, while you're out, you should check out all the other merch they got too. We got towels, we got shirts, we got hats. Dude, we even got some pillows, bud. But dude, careful when you do that. Don't want you farting on my face, bud. I know that Pappy Peen always used to say, Rusty, a fart is just a cough inside your pants. But dude, I can't be having a face on a pillow if you're just gonna be stinking it up all the time. Dude, you should order some now while the fight's still here, otherwise they're all gonna get scooped up before you know it, bud. Yeah?
Did he say we have shirts? I don't know about shirts. We have shirts, not shirts. We have shirts. Thank you, Rusty. All right, let's have that next interview. So please welcome Elliot Robinson. Elliot, come on in. Hello there, sir.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
All right. Okay, now I'm just an ignorant drag queen. Okay, so you've got a bunch of letters after your name, and you got a bunch of fancy diplomas behind you. What does that all mean?
Well, the JD just means that I'm a graduate of Howard Law School, and the MDiv, I got my Master of Divinity from Emory University.
All right, Blatt. So, lawyer and minister. Would you classify as a minister?
Yes, that's accurate. Yes.
Oh, very good. Very. See, I've got all my diplomas behind me too, so we're on the same playing field tonight.
That's right.
All right. So, as Russell mentioned, you are an expert, or you like to talk about the Jim Crow laws and their effect on our country and society today. All right. Please educate me. I've heard of Jim Crow laws all my life, but I have no idea who or what was Jim Crow. Where did that come from?
Well, I guess it's not funny, but the origin of the actual term Jim Crow comes from an era when blackface and minstrel shows were really popular in the United States in started like around the 1820s. The father of Jim Crow as a what we would consider vaudeville, but at that time it was blackface or minstrel shows, was Thomas Dartmouth Rice. And the rumor or the legend has it, basically he was a regular performer. He saw two African American stable men outside of a performance hall in Louisville singing a song. And the song he ended up liking the song. He took the song and kind of tweaked it and turned it into a ditty, basically, about this character, Jim Crow. Well, what happened is he then took his show and then revolved it around really, really negative caricatures about the two men, but he would blacken his face and then do these, what we would now consider minstrel shows or minstrel ditties or minstrel acts during his show. And it became incredibly popular. And so what happened is that this caricature became attached to what would become Jim Crow laws that occurred later. And so that was like the predecessor of the laws was this Jim Crow caricature. And literally they were everywhere. I mean, and the crazy part is they were more popular in the North than they were in the South. And so
okay. So what type of laws are we talking about?
And so the Jim Crow laws that were created, they came after the end of the Civil War. And so you had a variety of different types of laws. So you had the more formal laws that we think about, things like basically where you can, like no black person can cut the hair of a white person. Blacks and whites can't be buried in the same cemetery. Obviously, people cannot be married if they're of different races. Blacks and whites could not frequent the same parks. They couldn't frequent the same beaches. And in many instances, blacks were not even allowed on beaches. Some of the ones that were just even more insane, for example, you had a law in Louisiana where blacks and whites at the schools of the blind had to be separated by race, even though they couldn't even see one another. Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's just, it got to be that absurd. Blacks and whites couldn't play pool together because the idea was that you can't have any social interaction where you're being considered equal. But I think the thing that has carried over the most are the laws that had to do with what's called social etiquette. And so these are things that really take the strict, harsh laws, the hard line laws, and then turn them into human interaction. So, for example, a black person could never insinuate or assert that a white person was lying. You could never suggest that a white person is inferior in any way. You cannot claim or demonstrate having superior knowledge or intelligence. You couldn't curse at a white person. You could not laugh at a white person. You couldn't comment at the appearance of a white woman. And then also things like if a white person was approaching you on the street, you had to step off the curb. If you were already standing and someone was passing you, you had to hold your head down. If you were approaching someone and they were talking to you, you had to take your hat off and never look them in the eye. So these were all things that would further assert the idea that one was superior over the other. And so those are some of the vestiges that we deal with today. And so, so those are some of the vestiges. More the social etiquette is what has continued on today, as opposed to those hard and fast laws that we see.
All right. So I don't know how old you are, but where did you grow up?
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. And I'm 51, so I'm proud of my age. I share it now. Yeah, once you get over 50, you don't care what anybody else thinks anymore. So yeah, I'm 51.
No. So growing up, did you feel any of those pressures?
Absolutely. In New York, it's funny. Well, not funny, haha, funny, but funny, irony funny. When you think of New York, especially when the era I grew up in, they were still touting America as the great American melting pot. Like that was still a thing. We were proud of it as a country. You come over here, it's great, blah, blah, blah. But we also had sundown towns in New York City. And so for those who don't know, sundown towns are just that. By sundown, if you're black, you better not let the sun set and you are still in that town. And so, for example, we had areas like Bay Ridge, Bensonhurst, maybe Marine Park too. But if you were black, you knew pretty much you don't want to be in those areas after dark, because it's like, well, what are you doing here? We need to make sure you get out of here and you understand that. Some of them you couldn't really go during the daytime either. And so, yes, you could definitely feel that. I went to Catholic school, and so elementary school, it wasn't bad. But when I went to high school, it was definitely there. This notion.
And you're talking the 1970s, 1980s?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 80s. Yeah, in the 80s. Yeah, I went to high school from 83 to 87. So, yeah. So it was still very much, there's still this, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. Even though I'm just as smart or smarter than my classmates, but it's just like, you shouldn't be here. So you still have that superiority, inferiority aspect that you still have to deal with.
So what is your mission now? What are you doing with this knowledge and experience?
Well, I started a nonprofit called Creative Tension. And the purpose of Creative Tension is really to be able to share with individuals the history and the legacy of Jim Crow segregation. And one of the ways that we do that is through our podcast. And so we've done 2 seasons of the podcast where we look at different caricatures. We look at different times in history in order to be able to to create a bridge to show people, yes, this is what happened then, but then this is what we see now that helps us to understand better what happened then. The reason why I started doing the podcast, My uncle, who has since passed, we would ride from DC to New York together. And during that time, he would share stories. He was the funniest person around. And so he would share stories of growing up in Sumter, South Carolina, which is where my dad is from. And he would share these stories that my dad never shared. And so we're riding and he's telling me stories about, I mean, some of them are just like, this just cannot be true. Because at the time I had never heard of them. And at this point, I graduated college. I was in law school. So I was 22, 23, 24 years old. He's telling me stories of people who were caught dating. So a black kid would be caught dating a white girl. And this one in particular was a friend of his. And by the time the kid got home, a friend of the family said, your son has been caught with dating this white girl. He needs to get out of town before sunset, because if he doesn't, they're going to get him. And so an instance where that happened, where they had to get him out of town. My uncle knew another instance where a guy got into a fight. Teenagers, they get into a fight, a scuffle. The black kid won the fight. Unfortunately, it ended up being the police came to the mom's house and said, well, look, we know your son got into a fight with so-and-so. Don't worry. We're just going to make sure he gets on the bus. We don't want any problems going on. And she literally never heard from her son again. And so there are instances like that happened. My dad had another instance where that happened as well. A friend of his, again, dating a girl, white girl, got caught. They were able to get him out of town, but he could never return back to Sumter. So whenever he had a death in the family, whenever he had a wedding, the family of the girl would be sitting outside the church at every funeral. And so my dad said he thinks he never really returned to Sumter until he died and they buried him back at Sumter. And so this was like 50 years went by from the time that this happened. And they would just be there. If someone in his family died, they'd be at the funeral, sitting outside the church, waiting to see if he came back. So stories like that really sparked my interest, because I'm saying, well, why would you never tell me these stories? Like this is, and as I began to study and research, I realized that it's really a form of PTSD, and my parents' generation would pretty much say, we're just going to go forward. That's behind us. We're just going to go forward. We're just going to go forward. We're going to make the best with where things are going, and never talk about it and share with my generation, the Gen Xers. So the Gen Xers, a lot of us never knew what our parents really went through growing up during the Jim Crow era. And so it wasn't until I began to research it and to understand, like, wow, this is insane. One, but two, not sharing it, you're carrying this trauma. And so the fear of what they had seen and experienced, they would share with us in a different way, by warnings, by things telling us not to do, by, people say, oh, black people don't do the talk. Yes, we do. Our parents share with us all these lists of rules and social etiquettes that they think will help us be safe. They never tell us why they were sharing it or what they learned growing up that made them feel the need to have to share it as harshly as they would share it with us, but they wouldn't give us the backstory. So we had no way to connect it to what their life was like. We only had the rule. My mother would say, now don't you be bringing no white girls home now. Don't you be dating no white girls, don't you do it. No, sir. And I would say, well, Ma, this is, but they had seen and they knew what could happen. And my mother would always just say, you just have to, I know people are changed, but it was very hard for her, given what she had seen for the most formative years of her life, to believe that people could really change that much, that fully, that I would be safe. And I think the saddest thing is now they live in a world where it has come back. That mentality has become mainstream again.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to ask, where are we? Have we progressed from that, or do you see a reversal?
I think it's a reckoning. And so I wouldn't say that it's a reversal. I think that it has mainstreamed that mentality. And I think people are being desensitized to their own humanity. And so, for example, whenever something bad happens, like we'll just use the instance where there's a police killing and it's videotaped. There's a concerted effort to desensitize people's empathy towards another person by saying, well, what did that person do? Well, what could have happened? because the idea is then they must have deserved it, as opposed to this is a person, another human being. At least be allowed to feel empathy for that person, but there is a concerted effort to not allow others to feel that empathy. And I think that along with all the other things that are happening, yes, there is definitely a resurgence. There's a resurgence of dividing people. There's a resurgence of trying to keep that feeling of, well, we're better than they are, especially when you're talking about anti-immigrant language, even though most of the people who are pushing it are the children of immigrants or the grandchildren of immigrants, and so that's the part I think that is very disconcerting, because we are in some ways going back there. I think the other side is because we have more knowledge now, people have more awareness, a lot more people are wanting to understand. Well, why do I have a bias? Okay, well, why? What is it that I don't know that I thought I knew about this country? Because the era, we learn about the time period, but we don't learn about the era of Jim Crow. So we learn about the U.S. history. That doesn't stop. When you're in school, you get it all. And then you go for African Americans' perspective, you go from slavery and then you go to civil rights. But you skip Jim Crow, and you skip how, and as you're learning from things from about 1876 to 1995, there is a system in place that tells blacks separate but equal. But we know it was not separate. It was separate, but it was not equal. But it was a systematic suppression and oppression of blacks and browns and immigrant groups, which people don't realize that as well. Italians were persecuted as well through Jim Crow. Initially, so were those who were Irish. They weren't through Jim Crow, but they were also oppressed. And so anyone who came in, obviously people who were from Asia, because you had different acts, specific acts, like limiting the number of people from different countries, like China and India, and then they were expelled, and that's why that's why the numbers are not as large as they should be, given how early they were immigrating into the United States, because at one point they were expelled from the United States. And then we know what happened with World War II. So we have these periods, but we don't weave it together. We kind of talk broadly America, but we don't want to look bad. But it happened. Right. So you have to talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, you end up with the forces that we have now that want to tell you, well, slavery really wasn't that bad. And well, black people they've been free from slavery, since 1865 and the Civil War. But you're skipping 100 years where black folks couldn't do anything. They couldn't own much. And whatever they owned, you had the right to take at will. The level of violence was just legendary, and the level of random violence. I suggest to people, if you want to go to Duke University's website, they have a project called Behind the Veil, and Behind the Veil is an oral history project where they actually interviewed Jim Crow survivors, and it's sometimes it's a little hard to listen to. Some of them are great to listen to, but these are individuals who were interviewed about their experience during the Jim Crow era. And that's
so Elliot, you covered these stories in your podcast?
Yes, I have, and some of them I actually have live. Well, I have the audio archives that I weave into some of the episodes. So I absolutely do. Yes, I do have those in there.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Elliot. You've told me a lot, and I have to think about a lot of things. So thank you so much. We'll bring you back later on in the show. So hang on there, Elliot. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Oh my. Fascinating. Thank you so much, Elliot, for sharing with us. Well, what would a week of Amber Live be without thinking and drinking with Rusty Peen?
Thinking and drinking with Rusty Peen.
No, this is Rusty Peen from the Beaver Pond Guns and Tackle Society. Our mission is to arm more drag queens, because a loaded drag queen is a safe drag queen. Dude, It's July and it's hot as balls and shit, so you want to stay hydrated and drink water so that you can keep drinking alcohol. Dude, you want to keep doing shots of Fireball, you want to keep drinking up all them Lucy Bell special recipes and shit, you gotta keep drinking water. It's the way it is, bud. I ain't made the rules and shit. I just let you know so that you don't pass out falling face down, ass up on the sidewalk. Someone or other with a Sharpie is gonna come along and draw a big old dick on your face and write pen 15 on the side of your face, and it's gonna be pretty fucking funny. Don't say I didn't warn you or nothing. Stay hydrated, stay in the shade, stay safe, stay cool, stay... Dude, I'm getting fucking famous, and it's all thanks to you people. You would liking and sharing and subscribing and doing all the shit, dude. There's even people who are like, Rusty, I'm so glad I'm watching your show. Let me tell you how to make it better and shit, dude. I got some constructive feedback for you. So tonight, we're gonna do some Rusty's reactions. I got a fucking letter right here. Let me see how I can find it. You got... What the fuck? Dude, it's the script. Okay, dude. Okay, dude. I got some fucking letters right here and shit for all fucking viewers who think, you know, shit about TV. Dude, I get some letters from people who think, you know, television's made and shit, so let's fucking read them, yeah? Alright, dude. First one. Dude, Rusty, I keep watching your show, but half the time I can't understand what you're saying, dude. Okay, bud, this one's an easy one. What you gotta do is see, they got these doctors who look at the ears, and they're called alcohologists. They fucking call it do the study of otology. The doctors are called otologists. It's the study of otology, where you go into a room with the doctor, he looks at your ears, and he plays you sound, and he said, you hear that shit? And you say, yup. And then he says, okay, dude, you can go home now. Your ears work good. You got some good ones. You take care of those ears. Well, you say, nope. Then he said, okay, bud, well, I can put an implant in your ear so that you can hear when your neighbor calling out the fucking cops and when they're saying, you know, fucking Rusty Peen over in my backyard burning trash and shit. And you get the drop on him, dude. You know, science changing the world and shit, but it could be a bitch too, you know. Okay, dude, here's the second one right here. Here we go, yeah? Rusty, my 9-year-old loves watching the Amber Live show, and they especially love watching Rocco. Dude, good for fucking Rocco Zamboni. Rusty, do you have to cuss so much? I don't want my child picking up some of your colorful language. Okay, dude. You're gonna let your little fucking Peen pod watch a drag queen talk show, you know, that's your prerogative. But, dude, if you're letting your fucking 9-year-old watch Rocco, dude, that shit's fucked up. Do I have to call child services and shit? Okay, dude, this next one comes from the internet. There was this fucker who saw one of my videos, and he's a clown fucker and shit, and he told me so, but he didn't like the show, and he told me that too. Dude, this one fucking fucker thought I was being funny when I was espousing some of my deepest thoughts. I was espousing how to get a jury duty and day in court. I did so much espousing, and I ain't even got no spouse. Dude. We reached out to this guy, you know, if I had it my way, I would have said, dude, I'm gonna fucking dropkick that fucker in the fucking throat, dude. He said, what the fuck you wanna know about? But Amber and also said, Rusty, you gotta show us some restraint, dude. And I said, fucking, your show, you out your way, dude. Make me fucking get out of this fucking bathtub right here. Anyway, dude, you reached out to that fucking guy and he said, dude, what do you like know about on the show? But he ain't never hit back or nothing. So, you know, don't say he ain't been open-minded to constructive cretinism. That's the other thing. Try to be open-minded to constructive cretinism. Dude, we learned a lot of shit today, dude, so let's do a shot of Fireball. Alright, dude. Fucking do the shot. Do it. Fucking. Dude, fucking right, dude. Champagne fireball. It came like a fireball. Na, 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 na. I did a lot of fireball. I put it in my champagne bottle. All I wanted was to break the internet. This is Rusty Peen saying, hope you learned something today. See you next time on Thinking and Drinking.
Thinking and drinking with Rusty Peen.
You know, there have been many times where we've had great conversations with Rocco, and other times not so great ones. Remember the Pilgrims? Anyway, I want to share with you one of my favorite Rocco conversations. Hey, hello, Rocco.
Hey, Amber, how you doing?
Doing fine, yourself?
Oh, great. Fantastic show. I got to tell you, I love it.
Well, what? Too diverse but fun, entertaining,
Right?
interesting.
First of all, I got to say, I love Squigs. Great guy. I drew a picture for him. Look at that. Huh?
That's.
I don't want to be, too competitive. I don't want to get him worried out there because, I got skills.
You got skills.
I got skills.
So, what's been going on in your week this week, Mr. Rocco?
I've been thinking about, the wall of moms out in Oregon.
Yeah.
The BLM protests and all that. And the Gestapo, the unidentified police, whoever they are, I've been like spraying them with tear gas and all these smoke bombs and stuff. And the guys have been coming out with leaf blowers. We've had leaf blowers. This is fantastic. What a fantastic idea. So I'm thinking, well, leaf blowers are great, obviously. But what other thing could they use? So I've been trying to rack my brain about things. And I'm like, what other garden utensils are there that would be good in a protest? Now I'm thinking, you might think I'm crazy.
I doubt that.
A garden gnome, right? A garden gnome is good because they ward off evil and they save the crops and the livestock. So you spread a bunch of these around in front of the moms, it'll protect them.
Oh.
Worst case scenario, those secret police will trip over them and then maybe, get hurt.
So what is that gnome doing? Is that a pipe that he's smoking there? Or?
He's playing a saxophone or a horn or something, but this one is broken. How that happened, I don't know. So what you could do with this one is throw it as a grenade.
Okay.
The gnome grenade. You could also, I don't know if I'm going to recommend this. I was thinking about it. You got the weed whacker.
Ooh.
But if you break out a weed whacker in a place like Oregon, they're going to be terrified that you're going to be whacking up all their weed.
Weed, yeah.
Let's just put that one aside. Now, we've also got, we've also got the garden weasel.
Ooh. Is that what that's called?
Yeah, this thing is great. Let me tell you, the perks of living in the suburbs, you get to play with toys like this.
Ooh.
Now, the garden weasel, I don't know. It's spiky. It's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little too dangerous. So, instead of that, you go with the nut weasel. Now, let's face it.
Oh, wait. What's that called?
The nut weasel. It's to pick up nuts in your yard. But I'm thinking maybe it'll pick up all kinds of nuts, Just go up to them, and they're going to be terrified. Their nuts are going to be never feeling the same again. And they're going to be scared.
I've never seen nor heard of a nut weasel.
Again, perks of living in the suburbs. You get a tree with nuts, you can't pick them all up. You take the nut weasel and you go round and pick it all up. Fantastic.
I guess.
I'm telling you. I got some great tools. You can always break out a chainsaw. Fun. But maybe not as acceptable. I don't know. It depends who you are.
Are you allowed to use a chainsaw?
For what? In a protest or to cut down a tree?
Anything.
Things. Yeah, I could use a chainsaw.
Yeah?
I'm very proficient with a chainsaw. I'm thinking about log splitters and stuff. Those, when you got logs, you want to burn them, comes in handy. Or, got other things you got to chop up. But another thing, I want to say, I love Francis. Love the man. Love him. And I am cordially inviting him. I'll come up to Vermont, whatever it takes. I want to go swimming with him. I even have the pool. All right? I want a pool to go swimming with Francois Clement. That freaking maestro Francois Clement. I'm very confused by this whole thing. We are swimming.
You come on up. I'll put on my my two-piece, and we'll just get in there together.
Two-piece? Can't you just wear a body bag or something and put eye holes in it?
All right, Rocco, you have a great week. Thank you for stopping by, and props to your props. Okay.
Well, thank you. Carrot Top ain't got shit on me. Let me tell you.
For sure. Bye, Rocco.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for watching tonight's show. I know I've enjoyed watching it, and I've enjoyed having the night off. So I want to thank Russell for putting all this together. Thank you, Russell. And next week, we're going to have another recorded show, but with some brand new material that you won't want to miss. All right? And we'll be back live Sunday, July 25th. Until then, bye-bye.
No one could do that better than Amber.
I'd rather see no one do it.